his career coaching Gor Mahia FC and the half-century games, the hits, misses, and things like that. So it's going to be our own interview. So we know everybody else is going to be picking it.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think, is this at all? Yeah. Dressing perfect? Most of the time, just have it easy.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's your day, it's your time.
No problem.
You're bossing it around now. Well, for you just set me out.
We are ready.
25 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Welcome, Coach. Wonderful to have you along. It's wonderful again to want to hear from you. And I know very many other fans, football members, fraternity around the world, especially in Kenya and in Africa, really want to listen to this interview, particularly about the many other things that you've achieved, what you've done in Gor Mahia, and indeed what the future portends for this club. It's very important that you have taken this moment. We also want to thank you for creating this time for us, however short it was in terms of notice, but then I hope we'll give the best, and fans and viewers are going to be enjoying this. So, as a matter of fact, everybody knows you are Johnathan McKinstry. That's obvious for every other person. Johnathan McKinstry is a renowned coach. You've been in Africa for a number of years now. You understand this terrain well, you understand the game well, but now more specifically at Gor Mahia. It has been half a century of games. Just so far, how's the journey been?
I think it's been very good so far. There's been highs and lows within those 50 games, but look, when I arrived at the club, it wasn't, I think a lot of people inside and outside of football asked me, why are you taking that job? And especially why are you taking it at that moment in time? Because I think you saw, 18 months ago, we saw a club that, was struggling in terms of a very lean squad. A lot of our historically top players had left to other competitors here in Kenya or had went abroad. We were having to promote a lot from the youth academy. We had a transfer ban and a significantly reduced budget. You go back 5-6 years, and Kogalo always was the team that had the biggest budget in the league and one of the biggest in the region. Whereas now we're probably the third or fourth budget in Kenya. So for us, we've got to be a lot more creative. So people said to me, why have you went and taken that job? And there was two reasons. One, Gor Mahia will always be Gor Mahia. They are a huge club, a huge name, not just in Kenya, but on the African continent. But also for me, I looked at the situation, a club that, needed a certain character to sort of grab hold of them and give them that hand back to the top table. And I thought, I know myself, I know what skills I bring. I think also more importantly, I know what skills I lack in terms of who I need to have around me, in terms of coaching staff, in terms of support. But I just felt the ingredients would be right to make a really special recipe here in Nairobi and for us to bring Kogalo back to the top table. And look, after 50 games, we've collected 2 of the 3 trophies that are available. We find ourselves sitting in first position again in the Kenyan Premier League, and we're on, if you include last season, we're on a run of 15 games without defeat. So we're really in a good moment, but there's always more. There's always more required. There's always more asked for. But I think overall we can give ourselves a positive review over the last 16 months. But at the same time, understand that we need to do at least the same amount of improvement again over the next season and a half if we're to reach those lofty goals of being not just competitive here in Kenya, but being competitive on the continent as well.
Well, Coach, of the half-century games you've played, only 5 have been losses, meaning the 45 remaining are either draws or they are wins. Just what makes this performance this stellar? Just how would it be possible to do 50 games, just lose only 5, the rest are either draws and wins?
Yeah, I think one of the big things when we first came into Kogalo, and I said to my assistant Michael Nam, and I said to the players on the very first day we met, we showed them a video, and it was some of the goals they had conceded last season. And we simply said, we cannot concede these goals if we want to be a serious football team. There are certain types of goals and certain situations that if you are serious and professional in your roles and in your positions, and in your preparation, that you do not concede. And so we said Kogalo was conceding too many of these goals before. And we set about making sure the structure of the team was that we wouldn't lose, and that we would use that as a platform to go on and win. And I think we've done that quite well. And even if I look at those 5 games that we did lose, we go back to last year when our first loss against KCB, and you wind the tape back and the goal's a couple of yards offside, the very unfortunate defeat in the Mashimeji Derby when we were the dominant team for 90 minutes of the game, and we have a little bit of bad luck with a penalty and a defender falling over. So even those defeats, we look at and say, there was maybe a little bit of bad luck, but equally we always need more from ourselves. But for us, it was about creating a template. We want to play attacking, attractive football, but at the same time, if you're conceding 2 or 3 goals, it makes it very difficult to win football matches. Whereas if you're not conceding, it gives you a platform to go off and win football matches and rack up those points. So I think it was just a reality check for the players that this isn't schoolboy football anymore. This is serious. There's people coming to pay to watch you play, and they don't want to see careless mistakes in the games.
Well, Coach, last season at almost the same time, you were top of the league again. This time around, again, you are finding yourself in a very familiar position. And while you were top, it led to the 20th title. Could Kogalo fans dream of the 21st title, given that now these are almost prototype of what was there last season?
Yeah, I think absolutely. We want the fans to dream. They've been coming out in their numbers again this season, and we want to see more and more. When we started a year ago, 18 months ago, having come out of the COVID pandemic, you were seeing maybe crowds of under 1,000 at games. Where now, even when we travel to away games, we're seeing several thousand fans in the town, in the city, at the stadium before and after the game. So we want the fans to dream, and hopefully they're coming back because we've given them something to be excited about. For us, it's always about taking a progressive step. Like, we look at the games this season, we've collected 27 points so far this season. If you look at the exact same games last season, we only collected 21. So already we're 6 points better off than we were in these corresponding fixtures last year. So that shows you positive progress. We're on track to hit our points target for this season. We had our points target last year, which we hit, and it won us the league. We've increased that points target for this season because we think, last year was the most competitive KPL in almost 2 decades in terms of how many points the top 4 collected. We expect this season to be even more competitive. But we're on target for those points. We're 6 ahead of where we were last season. And so, yeah, fans should dream, but make sure those dreams involve bringing you, your friends, your family to the stadium on match day so that everybody can share that dream together.
14 games, Coach, still unbeaten this season. And everybody wonders how it works out. It looks sometimes very easy on the pitch. The fans are demanding these results. They are getting them. You're also giving them these results. Just what's the magic about this?
I think there's not so much magic. It's about hard work. You guys have been here this morning in training on a hot day, here at what is a beautiful facility at the M-Pesa Foundation. And it's hard work from everybody. These facilities do not come cheap. The executive committee have got to decide, yes, we're going to increase our training budget. Last year, I think our training budget has increased by like 60-70%. So we're spending a lot more money on our training, equipment, facility than we were last season. And you have to say thank you to the sponsors, to the EC, for having the vision to go with us. We come and present these proposals, but they say, okay, we understand, let's give you the best environment. And then the players, when they come to this environment, a training pitch is only as good as the work that you do on it. And so the players putting in that effort, competing, we've got a bigger squad than we did last season. Some days I look at our substitutes bench on a match day and think, wow, most of these players feel rightly that they should be starting. You even look in our goal at the moment, we've got Kevin Omondi, who's got 8 clean sheets so far this season and is, in line, in the race for the Golden Glove. And on our bench, we've got last season's Golden Glove winner in Gad Matthew, who, is waiting patiently for his turn. And so you see that all across the pitch, that there's talent on the field and off the field. but the boys aren't getting upset about it because they know the only way to get their place in the 11 is to work. And we're seeing that hard work, and so the support of the club, the support of the sponsors, the hard work of the players and the staff all comes together to make sure that on a match day we've always got a really good chance of getting the right result.
Coach, you have been into Africa, you've been into other countries again in Africa. What's your assessment about the Kenyan League in a scale of 1 to 10 perhaps? Where would you rate the Kenyan League, having comparatively made analysis to other leagues in other areas, like say Rwanda, or Uganda, or other places? You've watched leagues, and I know you can tell exactly where do you place the Kenyan League? How would you rate it?
Yeah, look, I think, first of all, I think the Kenyan League is probably the most competitive I've seen in a long time. Having been in, Rwanda, Uganda, there tends to be 2 or 3 teams competing at the top. You go to Ghana, there tends to be 2 or 3 teams competing at the top. So, whereas here, you have, like even this season, I think the top 6 or 7 are only separated by 3 or 4 points. So, it really is ultra competitive, and you go and play a team. You take our game at the weekend, for example, against Karabangi Sharks, who are sat 13th in the log against the team who at the time were second. Yet the game is ultra competitive and it's very close for 90 minutes. In fact, a 91st minute winner to claim all the points. So this league is extremely competitive. I think, and it's been said many times before, I think facilities are a big factor, but it's not just about match facilities. Yes, we want the pitches that the games are played on to be as high quality as possible. But look, like I said, we're sat in this beautiful facility here in Thika, but there's not enough of these. All KPL teams should be training in this type of environment. It should be available in terms of being constructed, but it should also be affordable that these teams can play. You go to Rwanda, for example, and when they hosted Chan in 2016, they used that as a moment of investment, not just to upgrade stadia, but also to build artificial and grass pitches all around the country. Now, obviously here in Kenya, we're due to host Chan, we're due to host AFCON. The legacy of those should be at least 10 training facilities that are like this one that we're sat in, right? And no one can tell me that can't be done, because I know from personal experience as head coach of Rwanda that it was done in Rwanda. And you see there the league, you look at some of the Rwandan players that even we have here, Patrick Sibomana, Emery Bayasenge. You look at ones you've historically had, like Jack Tuasenge, like Mehdi Kagere, like Abuba Sibomana, how comfortable they are with the ball. Why is that? It's because in their domestic environment, they've got good pitches to develop on and to play on. So we need to do the same here for Kenya, and if we do that, it can really take, not just one step forward, but 4 or 5.
Well, still at the Nationals, your players, notably Alpha, has been there. We've had Omala now, we have Ronnie, and the rest who've been invited to the national team. They've performed well, especially this last outing where Omala and Ronnie were outstanding. As a former national team coach, what does this tell about the amount of work they do at the club level? Though it has taken so much time before they are called, but we knew it would come at one point. But then it's also inviting to see them perform instantly on their first caps, and it's very, very interesting. Just what happens for them to be ready this match?
Yeah, look, I think from my personal experience with 3 different national teams, one of the biggest challenges with domestic, local-based players, whether it was Sierra Leone, Rwanda or Uganda, when they stepped up into the senior national team, one, there was a training intensity difference, was that the pros in Europe and Asia were training at a higher intensity. But secondly, there was a seriousness from the foreign-based players that was lacking in the local-based players. The local-based players sometimes were a bit casual, and they thought, I'll always get my chance. That if the talent is good enough, I'll get my chance. But what any national team coach will tell you is there's only 3 or 4 days of working together before a game. There can't be casualness. It's got to be, and we have the saying here at Kogalo of all business. We're all business. When we're off that pitch, when we're in the bus, or when we're, having lunch together, we can have the jokes, we can be casual, we can have fun. But when you cross that white line for training or for a match, it's all business. It's all business. And you expect that of your teammates as well, and you expect it of yourself. And you're willing to be held accountable. And so for me, I think given that our environment here at Kogalo is an all business mindset, when those boys step into the national team environment, whether it's with Kenya, whether it's with Rwanda or Uganda, because we have players with multiple countries, they take that all business mindset with them. And that means when a coach looks at someone, who's ready to play? Is it the casual guy who's having fun and joking? Or is it the guy who's working every minute of that training session to get the most out of it? Because that's the player you'll trust. And then when you get the opportunity, Benson gets an opportunity for 20 minutes, make sure he gets the goal. And could have had another one. But he knows where he needs to be to score the goal. Rooney knows not to mess around with the ball. He knows, have the shot or hit the cross. Don't take too many touches. So I think that all business mindset means it puts them in a better position. And look, with Chan coming up next year, let's be honest, this group of players have collected the most points, scored the most goals, kept the most clean sheets, conceded the least goals in the last 18 months. I would like to think that the Chan, if you're picking 23 players for a Chan squad, I would like to think at least 7 or 8 of them will be from this club.
That's interesting. And now, looking even at the rest, from Uganda, Rwanda, Mugisha turning out for Cranes, then Nasidomana also turning out for the Rwandan national team. As a coach who actually has these boys every other single day, how does it make you feel when you see they get the call-ups in their national teams, not only in Kenya, but even in the neighboring countries?
Well, it makes me feel very good for them because, I've done over 50 international games. We talk about it being 50 now here at Kogalo, but I think it's in the mid-50s in terms of international games. So international football means a lot to me. I know how much it means to the fans of every country. I know how much it means to those players to pull on that shirt, because to be told you are in the best 20 and then the best 11 in your country in that snapshot in time, that's something you can look back on. Even if that only happens once in your life, there's several million people that's never happened to. So you are greatly privileged to that. And so I'm very pleased for those players who get that opportunity to do it. But I'm also pleased as well for us as a club that it shows us our recruitment strategies right. I think the club went through a period, from players from a bit further afield, whether they were Brazilians or whether they were, West Africans and stuff. And these were players who were nowhere near their national team. But for us, we went and signed experienced players. Emery Bayasenge we also expect, and Patrick Kadu, now that they're fit again, when the March games roll around, we expect they'll be involved again with their national teams. But we're not just signing experienced national team players, but we're also taking someone like Rogers Mugisha, who had never played for Uganda at senior national team level. And his performances both at youth national team, but then now in the green shirt of Kogalo, mean that they want to call him for every camp. So I think it shows you who we are as a club. I think it shows you the pull that we have, but I think it also shows you our ambitions. That we're not, I said this before, as Kogalo, we won't sign small players. We will either sign big players who already have the experience, or we sign rising stars who are on their way to being big players.
On their way to greatness. Now, Coach, there's one player of yours that I've picked out, and he baffles, maybe as the father figure who is around with them every other day. Alpha Onyango. Is Alpha Onyango a natural midfielder, or a striker, or a natural defensive midfielder, or what kind of player is this? Because this is one player that baffles you every other time. Because at one time you would think he's come in like at supporting the attack, then you find him doing so much at the back, and within no time he does a very dazzling shot and a move, and it's a goal. Mm-hmm. And you are like, now who is this? Yeah. This player, where do I rate him? What position does he play? He's also good on both feet, and he can back shots.
Yeah, I think Alpha's a great case study. First of all, he's a great character. To have him around the training ground, I think any photographs that get taken by our photographers, he's smiling in every one. So he's a great character, he's laughing and joking, he's very light-hearted, which you need that. You need the serious characters and you need the light-hearted characters. And Alpha's very much one of the light-hearted characters. I think Alpha's a great case study because he's a player that's been known to Kenyan football for a very long time. You know, when he was sort of breaking through when he was 16, 17, when he was at high school. You know, obviously Gor had vested interest in him for a long time before he actually pulled on the green shirt. Now, I'm a big believer that the worst thing that you can tell a young person is that the reason they have their success is all down to their talent. Because there's lots of talented people. But if you tell someone when they're 16, 17, you're doing well because you're so talented, well, what happens when they hit a roadblock? What happens when they have a dip in form? They then think, oh, maybe I'm not as talented as everyone thought I was. Talent does exist, but hard work has to go hand in hand with it. And so I'm of the school of thought that even if there's a huge talent, you've got to reinforce the need for work. And if you reinforce that need for work at 16, 17, 18, then the player can go anywhere. I think Alpha maybe was told a lot when he was younger that he was super talented. And so his form was up and down. And how do you, when you're out of form, how do you get back into form? Are you just relying on this magic dust that is talent? Or are you going about it? Are you going about business? Are you all business? I'm going to put the work in. And I think one of the things that hopefully he's learned and is learning over the last 18 months is just the work that's required every day to be at that top level. And we're starting to see that. You know, he's still got some way to go. He's not finished by any means, but I think his understanding of what is required to really maximize his potential has grown massively. And, you know, he's been in and around the national team in recent years, or in recent months. Hopefully he'll get back in again. And as to your question, you know, I think Alpha is almost one of those lost players in that he's a classic number 8. You know, he can play forwards, he can play backwards. You know what I mean? Like, I think when football developed and when everyone started playing 4-3-3, you were either a defensive midfielder or you were an attacking midfielder. You know, you had one job to do. But if you go back to the 90s and look at the great Manchester United teams, the great Newcastle teams, you know, the great Arsenal teams, where they played 4-4-2, you had midfielders who had to do both. You know, you look at that Arsenal team that had Patrick Vieira and Emmanuel Petit. Yeah? They both attacked and they defended. Yeah, it wasn't just one role. And so I think Alpha is of that ilk, that he can be involved. We can play him at number 6 if we need to play him there, but equally 8, 10, he can play at any position in the midfield.
Oh, that's nice to know that now. Coach, which is the toughest of the assignments you've had under Kogalo? Or rather, which are the teams that perhaps have really given you these goosebumps, like how do I plan for this? How is it going to look like? Perhaps as a coach, there are those that, you know, really give you trouble when you're planning the next assignment. You're going to face them, you don't know how to deal with them. But then there are these very tough opponents that keep you really working so hard and even making you a better coach.
Yeah, there's been a few. Like, there's some games that you come away from massively frustrated. You know, I think KCB have probably proven to be our most frustrating opponent because in every game that we've played them, we've largely dominated the game. Yeah, I think we've played them 3 times since I've arrived and we've largely dominated every game. Yet it's been 2 draws and a loss. Yet we look at the games, we look at the ball possession, we look at the chances created, and we are the dominant side. But for whatever reason, we haven't been able to get across the line in those games. I think, you know, there's always, like, I enjoy, the thing about it is the games that give you the most trouble are the ones that are the most enjoyable as a coach. So you love playing against the likes of Tusker, you love playing against the likes of Police, you love playing against the likes of Homeboys, because you know that they're going to pose you problems, because they have good players in their ranks. They play a different type of football to us. You know, sometimes when you find 2 teams that play similar football, then the game's quite open and it's flowing and it's great to watch. But sometimes you go and you play a team that's super direct. And when a team's super direct, it makes it harder to press because they don't hold onto the ball for long enough for you to get close and press them. So it poses tactical challenges for us as a coaching staff and for the players to solve. That's why I see some other coaches, like I comment on it sometimes, but I see other coaches complaining when maybe an opponent parks the bus. But look, it's your team. You can do whatever you want. It's it is frustrating, but it's our responsibility to find a way through. You know what I mean? You got to respect all the different types of football. So, yeah, I think we enjoy playing those big opponents, but definitely every game in the KPL throws up a different challenge. You know that, because when teams come to play against Kogalo, it's their game of the season. You see that every week. And then in the 3 or 4 games after they play us, they maybe don't win. But they come to play us against us. But that just makes us better. That means we've got to be better, which is fine.
It's always a win or win situation in Gor Mahia. I think that has been the culture from the fans to wherever to whatever. So it gets to a point I don't really think as a coach you even get to sleep well when you know this is the culture. Now you've come up with another mantra, it's always business. Now when it's win or win and then it's always business, is it making you a better person in terms of your career as a coach? How does it challenge you? I mean, just how does it make you feel around when you move and you know, well, here it's only either win or you win or it's business?
Yeah, well, I think for coaches, all of us want to feel that pressure. You know, I've had different opportunities in my life to go to different places. And if ever there's been a decision to be made between option A and option B, I've always taken the option that had more pressure, that there was an expectation. Because trust me, there's a lot of jobs here, like in the world, where maybe it's a smaller club looking to develop or a national federation looking to grow the game. And look, there's great benefit in doing that. You can have huge impact when you go to those clubs and those environments. But for me, I wanted the pressure to win. You know, I want to test myself. You know, I've been very fortunate in my life to come up against some top coaches. You know, there's some very experienced and, you know, successful coaches here in Kenya that I've had to come up against, but equally on the international stage, you know, coaching against the likes of Hervé Renard, like Avram Grant, you know, coaching against these players, Alou Cissé. You know, it's like a game of chess. And you look at the coach on the other side of the halfway line from you in the other dugout, and it's you going up against him, and can you use your weapons, your players, in a way that is better than he will use his? And yeah, so I think, you know, the opportunity here, the pressure to always win, the pressure to always get those results, is something that we have to thrive under.
Okay, maybe I'm told our time is almost up, but before we wind up, when Gor Mahia wins, I don't think it's about if. It's certainly Gor perhaps will be the champions again this season round. And now you are faced with the continental challenge here, coach. And are we ready? Mm-hmm.
I think we're on the way to being ready. One of the big things is, and look, I know for me, I always call myself a bit more of a pragmatist. You know, I would say you've got idealist coaches who say, oh, we have to play tiki-taka, we've got to do this. You know, I would consider myself much more in the Jose Mourinho or Diego Simeone or Jurgen Klopp mantra of what players do we have, how do we play. We want to play good football, but at the same time, there's got to be a balance because there's something greater coming. Now, I look in the past at when, not just Gor, but a lot of teams in East Africa, whether it's APR, Rayon Sport, Vipers, KCCA, you know, Gor, Tusker, and they have this way of playing in the domestic league, and maybe you go out and you score 100 goals and concede 40 goals or 50 goals, and you think, oh, this is great, it's really exciting football. And I'm sure that's great for fans to watch. But then you go and play on the continental level. And how many times over the years have we cursed when an East African champion has been knocked out because of a careless goal conceded, through a lack of concentration, through a bad back pass? Even at international level, you look at the Kenyan national team, in their last 3 or 4 games, almost in every game, they've conceded a goal through a centre-back under-hitting a back pass and a goal being walked into the net. You don't see that happen here at Kogalo, yeah? And so for us, we think there's a better balance to the team than there maybe has been in the past, even though there's been great teams in the past. But it means that when we get into that top continental level, doesn't matter whether it's against a team from Botswana or a team from Egypt, we think we're going to be solid, we're going to be rock solid, and we're only going to need one goal to win the tie. Yeah. Whereas in the past, when you concede sloppy goals, because that defensive and team organisation isn't as strong, then you need to score 3, maybe 4 goals to go through in the tie. And how realistic is it to do that against a team from maybe Tunisia who has an annual budget of $6 million. So I think the way we are preparing, and it's what we say to the players all the time in training, is we're not just preparing for, Nzoia Sugar at the weekend. We're also preparing for that Champions League qualification game next August. Because the right things will always be the right things, regardless of the opponent.
That's exciting and very encouraging. Now, Simba Yanga seem to be posing a serious threat to Gor Mahia dominance in East Central Africa as actually the most successful team so far. In terms of their planning, the arrangements, the administration, it's been superb in the last 5 years. It's grown their budgets, it's grown their play, their kind of signings. They are now competing so well in the continental stage. What must Gor do maybe in the next 1 minute or so before we wind down?
I think it's about having a plan. It doesn't happen overnight. You look at, let's say, take Yanga, for example, who obviously got to the Confederations Cup final last year, and I believe are currently top of the Tanzanian league. Their budget is like 8 times what our budget is. Now, that didn't magically appear. Someone didn't just come and drop $10 million into their bank account like magic. It took about having a progressive, a well-run club that sponsors were interested in getting involved in, that they would grow the brand, that they would invest in facilities, so that, because if you think here at the moment, not just Kogalo, but a lot of Kenyan clubs, a large proportion of our budget goes on renting facilities. Whereas you go to Yanga or to Simba, they own their facilities. They don't have to pay that money out. And then obviously bigger revenue, better players, better results, more fans in the stadium. When you're pulling in 10, 15, 20,000 fans every week paying the ticket price, it's a very positive cycle. And so, but it has to take that first step. The first step is us being competitive and successful on the pitch. If we can get into the group stages of the Champions League next year, that would be a huge injection, because the minimum money you get is $700,000, and then that can be the seed, that really starts to grow. But it has to be invested wisely. It can't just be, I think people see, $700,000, let's go and sign lots of players. No, you should build a facility, you should build a clubhouse, you should have these things so that Gor Mahia isn't just successful today, that it's successful for the next 30 years. But it's a step-by-step process. I think we're healthier than we were 18 months ago, definitely, with the sponsors that have come on board, both for us and for the league. But it just takes continual growth and continual, one step forward at a time.
Coach, I can't leave you without asking you, which is your favorite team in English Premier League?
So I grew up, since I was a very young boy, I was a Newcastle United fan. So we've been through the good times and the bad times. A family member of mine played for them in the 80s and then was involved in the backroom staff in the 90s. And so growing up as a young boy, I lived in Ireland, but I used to go over to Newcastle when I was like 9, 10 years old. And I used to be at the training ground. I remember being at the training ground when Kevin Keegan was the coach, when Kenny Dalglish was the coach, Ruud Gullit, Bobby Robson, and you'd watch training as a young kid. You'd meet the players, you'd meet the coaches, and who knows, maybe that's where the coaching bug got set in, because I got to see the work of football, not just the entertainment of football on a Saturday afternoon. But yeah, I've been a Newcastle follower for a very long time. It's over 30 years now, so it's a nice moment in our history when we're actually winning a few football matches.
At least when Newcastle is coming up again, you did it against Manchester United. At least you're happy for that. I'm a Liverpool fan anyway, but then I also believe that as a Kogalo head coach, it's the Christmas season, the festivities are here. Perhaps a parting shot to the Kogalo fraternity, something that would really carry them into the Christmas as we break for the festivities. Now that this perhaps would be also our last interview this year, an exclusive one, of course, that our fans out there would go with you and share with their family members.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Yeah. So just wishing all the Kogalo, the Green Army, a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope that you're able to go, wherever you call home, to spend it with friends and family and to enjoy and to relax away from the hard work of everyday life. But yeah, enjoy that time with your loved ones. You know, a very Merry Christmas from myself, from the staff, from all of the players here at Gor Mahia, and we look forward